Beyond the clouds that nonchalantly roam the Pacific sky, a land like no other emerges. New Caledonia. Immense, serene, cooled by the trade winds, brimming with life, far from any continent, it shelters a secret world. The whole island rustles with a discreet and silent life. It offers itself, wild and fleeting, only to the most attentive, knowing, and patient of gazers. Cautious, discreet, here is the kagu. Just like the hen, it is incapable of flying. Nothing surprising here. On this island, from the beginning, the kagu has never known a predator. So why have big wings when one feeds on insects at ground level? For instance, here in rainy weather, from the cool moisture of dead leaves, its favorite menu rises to the surface. Always on the lookout, the kagu is voracious. Its beak is large and powerful enough to dig into the earth, a land where, until the arrival of man, the kagu had neither cats nor dogs to fear. Impenetrable and eccentric, the Caledonian jungle hides other rare birds. This is the horned parakeet. It is rarely seen on the ground, as it likes to feast on fruits, berries, flowers, and nuts perched up in the trees. Its feathers help it blend in with the leaves of the canopy. The green pigeon is also a champion of camouflage. Only during takeoff or landing can its presence be given away. A red-tailed grey pigeon called the natu likes to bask in the sunlight. It is the largest pigeon in the world and can weigh over a kilo. New Caledonia is a piece of the Gondwanan continent that broke away more than 300 million years ago. Since then, nothing seems to have disturbed its imposing rivers and impenetrable forests. These are wild landscapes, just like in the dinosaur era. New Caledonia is a miracle of equilibrium. Here, mineral, vegetable, animal, earth, air and water have made a pact to shelter life forms which date back to the origins of the world and which have disappeared elsewhere on the planet. In this impetuous water live creatures of great ingenuity. Aquatic insects are patiently building nets. Thanks to these tight webs, they capture the plant debris that gets pushed around in the water. They stay well hidden in their crevices and only come out to eat or repair their nets. Other tiny creatures, such as the guppy fish, also feed on plant debris and zooplankton. Further along, freshwater snails graze on the algae that line the rocks, and the gentle currents of the river carry the creek shrimp. They are omnivorous and let themselves be lifted from rock to rock in search of insect larvae, dead fish debris, algae, and even fruit under the unblinking eye of the black stifodon. In this world of transparencies, where water spurts and sun rays are playfully intertwined, it can be difficult to distinguish one from the other. The surface of the water, a liquid border that is indistinct, transparent and fluid, separates worlds where each occupant, silent and attentive, has its position. Here, life high and low merge. Marine, mineral, plant. All elements work together for the benefit of the animal kingdom. Static in deep water. The marbled eel awaits its next prey. Might it come from the sky? New Caledonia is a land rich in water. As far as the eye can see, the landscapes are green, and the plains seemingly limitless. Yet mainly in the south of Grande Terre, the plains gradually give way to a landscape which looks more arid. These large spaces are called the maquis minier, the mining maquis. They cover just over a fifth of the territory. It is not water that prevents plant life from thriving here, but the soil, as it is very rich in iron, magnesium, and nickel. The mining maquis have given birth to species, both plant and animal, which can only be found here. It is in this world that lives a reptilian creature, a survivor of the dinosaur era, the gecko. The Caledonian gecko is the largest in the world. It's majestic. Its skin makes it invisible on the bark of trees, where it hunts large insects and small birds that its sharp teeth, without fail, immobilize and devour. Because of its soil and geological history, New Caledonia is often thought of as first and foremost a fossil island. The first humans set foot here almost 3,000 years ago. From the 18th century onwards, Europeans brought their domestic animals with them. To the west of the island, beyond the mining maquis, lies the savannah. Only a meter of water falls here each year, whereas the east coast, which gets soaked by the trade winds, receives more than 6 meters. But despite this, the mineral-rich soil in the savannah, dry forests, plains, and semi-desert grasslands still nourish a grass full of nutrients that benefit the island cattle. Numerous herds graze, scattered around on pastures that have dried up because the expected rains have not yet arrived this season. Where the earth joins the sea, New Caledonia looks like paradise. Here, horses have grown wild again, having fled their enclosure or been abandoned. In this space, they have found total freedom. With them, the savannah becomes mythical again. It offers a vision of the dawn of humanity. Taking advantage of the low human presence due to the arid soil, another herbivore has also made the savannah its home. It cunningly knows how to be discreet and avoid farmlands, but also how to sneak inside them when needed. Imported from the island of Java at the end of the 18th century, the Rusa deer has proliferated to the point where it's becoming a danger to the local flora. It has suffered the same fate as farming livestock and is being hunted for its meat. Timid, always alert, wary of any suspicious movement, and ready to sprint in order to escape, the Rusa deer has developed the habit in this period of drought of going as far as the mountains to look for food. This is the season when the males lose their antlers. Others are molting and their winter coats fading. In the evening, freed from the stifling heat of the day, the herd sets off towards an area still rich in food. An old female guides them, sure of her perfect knowledge of the territory. Nevertheless, not a step is taken without making sure that the way is clear and there is no danger. As day becomes night, the island falls silent for a while before it starts rustling with new sounds. Animals cower, birds huddle in their nests, while others awaken. This is a dame roussette, the largest and most widespread fruit bat on the island. Like all species of bat around the world, it is not a bird, it is a mammal. And its wings are not wings, but hands, whose fingers are joined by a membrane. In China, bats are symbols of happiness, and the Maya worshipped them. Here, the bat is at home, as it is endemic to the island. Flying from the top of peaks and cliffs overlooking deep wooded valleys, bats live in the most difficult places for humans to reach. They fly throughout the night in search of their food, the ripest fruits. Once they are full, and only as daylight appears, do they return to their nesting place. This new day is not a day like any other. The waves that come and go on the island's sand are a testament to passing time. For thousands of years, ever since the reign of the great reptiles, the beaches of New Caledonia have experienced an unchanging ritual, and today is the day to see it perpetuated. Each day has been vital. In all, 80 days of sleep in the warmth of the sand. And today, here they are. 80 days to hatch, and millions of years of evolution. They hatch in their hundreds, alone, and will never know their mother. These are loggerhead turtles, sea turtles. Here in New Caledonia, they are called big-headed turtles, even though for the moment, they're still very small. It's dawn. Hatching often takes place at night or in the early morning, so that the darkness increases the chances of escaping predators and avoiding the burning sand. On their way to their new aquatic life, baby turtles lose up to 20% of their weight in evaporated water. Once they have reached the water, they simply let the tide carry them out to sea. There, they will swim for 20 hours to get as far away from the coast as possible. The young loggerheads will remain in the open sea until they reach adolescence. As adults, they will migrate back to the beach where they were born and will perpetuate their species, hopefully for thousands and thousands of years. On the edge of the island's west coast, seawater and land become one. Near the heart of Vaud, their union gives birth to a biotope and creatures from time immemorial. Diving into the mangrove can give the sensation of time travel to far-off times, in a time long ago when life had not yet chosen its final form. One of these alien-like creatures seems to come from these earliest times. Not quite fish, not quite frog, probably a bit of both. Here is the Periophthalmus. We also call them gobies. It lives between air and water, between sky and mud, in the heart of the mangrove. With a colour perfectly adapted to the tree trunks and rocks it clings to, the Periophthalmus is quick and crafty, and feeds on all kinds of insects and small invertebrates. Rather extravagantly, nature has endowed the Periophthalmus with dual-function eyes. It can see both above and below the water, and in both cases has a very wide field of vision. Its protruding eyes can turn at any angle and independently from one another, so that nothing escapes the rainbow-eyed Periophthalm's attention. This sacred egret would like to try its luck. But with such efficient eyes, there is no doubt that the frogfish has already seen it coming. The Periophthalmus has once again confused its predator by covering its tracks. It can now head back to the shore at its own leisurely pace. The sacred egret will have to try its luck elsewhere. The mangrove is where land and sea meet, as well as the place where fresh and salt water meet. This forms an extraordinarily rich biotope where myriad aquatic species flourish. They can come to life here without fear, as the labyrinth of deep roots form hiding places which the biggest predators cannot penetrate. The crescent grunter and mullet also find refuge in these shallow waters, where aquatic grass beds proliferate. A little further offshore, but still in the mangrove, several species take advantage of the shallow bays and networks of wind-protected channels. Sharks can be found here too. These shallows are the lemon shark's favorite hunting ground. The leopard ray, which is very aggressive towards humans, likes to crisscross these part sand, part mud plateaus, which provide it with an inexhaustible food supply. The green turtle enjoys grazing on the grasses that grow on the shoals. These aquatic pastures, called seagrass beds, slow down currents. Their roots increase the sedimentation of the seabed, thereby avoiding coastal erosion. A large, solitary mammal also makes abundant use of these underwater meadows. The dugong, which is at the heart of mermaid mythology, greedily rakes up the seabed to graze on leaves and roots. The golden trevally takes full advantage of the protection provided by the dugong by never leaving its side. The golden trevally skillfully captures all the small invertebrates that try to escape when disturbed by the giant, before it inevitably has to come up to the surface to breathe. The sea. Sailors of old used to say that sometimes the sea liked to enhance its beauty with jewels like jade or emerald. Here in New Caledonia, it seems that the sea has chosen the most sumptuous of jewels. These treasures could be missed at first sight, as they lay hidden beneath the waves. The immensity of the ocean preserves a whole kingdom. It is here, in the seabed of New Caledonia, that the longest uninterrupted coral reef ever seen on the planet, that stretches over 1,600 kilometers. Protected, free, absolute masters of their underwater kingdom, more than 1,600 species of fish inhabit chiseled, multicolored palaces of lace. These bold palaces are shaped century after century, even millennium after millennium, by the accumulated aggregates of more than 350 different families of coral. Giant clams are like corals. They feed on zooplankton and need light to feed the algae they host. In fact, corals are colonies of hundreds of polyps, all independent from one another. The polyp is an animal with a cylindrical body and a mouth surrounded by a ring of tentacles. It secretes itself up the calcite cup in which it lives. Over the centuries and millennia, corals have shaped the largest constructions in the animal kingdom. Some corals grow by 20 centimeters a year, others by a few millimeters only. They live in symbiosis with microscopic single-celled algae called zooxanthellae, which supply them with oxygen, sugars, and other nutrients. It is this microscopic algae that gives corals their myriad colors. In turn, the corals provide nutrients, homes, and hiding places to an entire community. In these coral gardens, the fish act as gardeners. Parrotfish, triggerfish, and other butterfly fish are busy pecking at the algae on the coral surface. And an important job it is too, because if there is too much algae, then the corals, lacking light, would be asphyxiated by the absence of photosynthesis. These strange Christmas tree-shaped creatures are worms. And they're in fact called Christmas tree worms. Their branches, instead of bearing gifts, capture nutrients as they pass by, carried by the current. In this universe of water and light, many species of fish swim in protective schools in an attempt to escape predators through size and number. Others, such as the moray eel, know how to hide away in holes, which they then defend like impregnable fortresses. Finally, there are those who prefer using mimicry to camouflage their presence. This means witnessing a frenetic show of beauty, colors, and shapes. The creatures are perfectly adapted to their ecosystem, and we can go as far as to talk about strategies in this small marine world. The trumpetfish, for example, takes advantage of its length to hide behind a harmless host as it approaches the small prey it seeks. Sea slugs graze on algae and sea sponges, and colonies of catfish use their group power to hunt small underwater invertebrates together. The lizardfish, a master of camouflage, prefers using immobility and patience as a strategy. A careless creature is bound to come along eventually. It is a waiting game, which the scorpionfish, invisible due to its perfect mimicry of its coral environment, also practices. The lobsters, ready to use their antennae as whips against intruders, remain hidden in their holes until nightfall, when they, in turn, go hunting. The cleverest fish on the reef are undoubtedly these small black fish with blue and yellow stripes, the wrasse. Their trick? By helping out the large predators, thereby obtaining their immunity. How? They turn themselves into cleaning stations, and as a result, become immune from the predator's aggression. The hunters come to them to have their gills cleaned, and even their mouths, without ever swallowing their toothbrushes. Hence the name Cleaner Wrasse. Not only do they gain protection, but also a salary. The wrasse gets to eat the parasites and crumbs stuck in the teeth and gills of its host. Outside, the island continues to be draped in sunlight. In fact, it is not quite an island. It is the emerged part of an ancient continent that has now collapsed beneath the ocean waves. It was called Zealandia, and it sank nearly 25 million years ago when its mass was as large as Australia. It left behind only a few islands, now named New Caledonia. Could the birds that fly in the skies over these lands today have memories of the old continent? Perhaps it's because they saw their former land sink that they adapted and became seabirds. In any case, it is here that they nest every year by the hundreds of thousands to give birth to their young and perpetuate their species. These are the terns. For fathers and mothers, for days on end, their mission is both essential and joyful, to feed the young and to feed them again. To the untrained eye, one might think these thousands of terns make up one family. This is true in a sense, but beware. Don't confuse them all, as there are several distinct species. There is the roseate tern, with a black cap, red beak, and red legs. And here is the black-naped tern, which can be identified by the black band that runs from its eye to the back of its head, as well as its black beak and legs. Roseate and black-naped terns, which form a single family, are the masters of this place. As their white feathers blend in with the shoreline, their uninterrupted comings and goings to find and provide food give seasons a rhythm. For their young may be born here and now, yet thousands of births have also taken place at sea. And so, on these very special lands that are the islands, the marriage of land and sea is like nothing else in the world. Another heir from the dinosaur era, the sea crate, is also an emblem of New Caledonia because it is found only on this island. Here locals have named it Tricoreye, or stripy jumper, because of its black and white rings. The sea crate approaches the water not only to cool down or to drink, it is also because it is an amphibious animal. Like the tern, does the sea crate also carry the memory of the lost continent in its genes? It spends its nights in beds of dead leaves and its days hunting in the depths of the ocean. The sea crate is fearful and does not attack humans, which is just as well, since it's the most venomous of all its fellow snakes. Its venom, which is nothing more than hyper-enhanced saliva, is 10 times more powerful than that of the king cobra, and 50 times more powerful than that of the diamondback rattlesnake, both of which are deadly. Moray eels are its favorite prey, but only if they're not too big. Between 2 breaths at the surface of the water, the sea crate travels incredible distances in search of the ideal prey. It can swim for hours through corals, corridors, hollows, and crevices of all kinds. Its rudder-like tail propels its undulations, enabling it to keep in rhythm with the pulsation of the sea's submarine masses. Undulating, hypnotic, the sea crate swimming has the grace of the ocean's underwater waves. But beware of anyone who crosses its path. As the sun disappears into the horizon and night falls, darkness spreads its cloak to the bottom of the sea. Daytime inhabitants huddle in their coral hideaways, and night creatures take over their nocturnal domain. Gently rocked by the movement of the waves, the fish let themselves be invaded by sleep, but they sleep with one eye open. Others wake up. When it is completely dark, they come up from the depths and, emboldened, go in search of their keep. Among the most fascinating of these night creatures, the nautilus has earned its credentials. A shell mollusk shaped by 500 million years of biological evolution, the nautilus goes all the way back to the time of the dinosaurs. With lands and skies that have known the beginnings of the world, and creatures that date back to the time when life appeared on our planet, New Caledonia is in itself a birthplace where the magnitude of the unbelievably large contains within it the marvel of the infinitely small. Like yin and yang, day and night, the macrocosmic and the microscopic, the entire island greets daylight every morning. Then, awakened by the waves, the inhabitants of the sea reclaim their rights all along the coral reef. With each passing hour, dozens of marine species dance ballet-like in rhythm with the deep-sea currents. High-fin groupers, grey or black-tail reef sharks, guitar rays, all enjoy the current created by the reef vault. Not only does the current bring minerals, but it is also a godsend for grey reef sharks. These predators, unlike other species that feed their gills by opening and closing their mouths, need to keep their mouths constantly open and can only breathe by moving. Thanks to the continuous movement of the current they find here, grey reef sharks can enjoy a little respite, as they get the necessary oxygen by simply letting water into their open mouths without having to move. They can then let themselves be lulled into the powerful current's millennial dance. A remnant of a lost continent, New Caledonia is rich in animal species which descend from the first life forms to appear on Earth. The fossil island. That is the name biologists give it, and although there are no longer any dinosaurs, Its remoteness from the rest of the world has allowed it to keep its beauty, its purity, and the richness of its fauna and flora intact. New Caledonia, jewel of the coral sea, may you keep your superb beauty forever, and in your undergrowth, your marine depths, and your azure skies, continue to offer to our fascinated gaze the brilliance of the beauty of the world and of life on Earth, as well as at sea.